friends, I'm Rick and it's your seat at the table. And, I got this, let me turn this down a little bit, right? Missy over here in the box, and it is the Christmas weekend of 2023. We are looking at, here in Iowa, up to a couple inches of rain and almost into the 60s for Christmas Day. Yeah, that is not normal as far as I'm concerned. But hey, it is what it is. I got a yeah. I'm doing I'm doing videos today. I'll do 5 or 6 of them or 7 depending on how my energy holds up. Right. I have a 4-day weekend. Everything went smoothly so far. Right. You can't ask for better than that. I mean, I don't know. I hope you all have a lot of good plans. I know some people don't celebrate Christmas because of cultural differences or because of religion. Fine, but keep in mind, in America, it is a holiday to be celebrated by the entire country, and not necessarily for the reasons that may be intoned to it from a Christian perspective. And all I have to do is point at the culture in Japan who embrace Christmas with a vengeance. No, but nothing like KFC and Christmas presents. Just saying, right? And it's got nothing to do with religion for the majority of the Japanese. It's just a beautiful time of the year, a great thing, a great tradition to get together with family and friends to share our thanks in a different way. In where Thanksgiving in America is being thankful. Traditionally, America Christmas is a time of celebration and renewal and camaraderie. Where it's a great time for families to get together. Often families who do not get together at regular times, at any time the rest of the year, will find time at Christmas to at least pay their respects with each other and to stay, to renew some contacts, stuff like that. So that said, hey, awesome stuff. It's another earmark for me and my wife on a number of ways. We took possession of this house we live in 5 years ago next week. Right, we took the day before New Year's Eve. We got the keys to the front door, and we spent New Year's Eve sleeping on a mattress, an old lumpy mattress we drug out of that RV on the living room floor, and that but never looked back. I mean, we never set foot, we never used the RV again. After that, we sold it a couple of years ago because that was it was very stressful point in our life, and it served its purpose admirably, and we were utterly grateful to have it, and that's the truth. And so we don't have a lot of people to celebrate with. We had our we took some gifts to our coworkers. We gave some gifts to the neighbor lady and her family a few houses down because we're on good terms with them, and that's what we do. That's just the sort of thing I was raised to do. They don't have to be expensive gifts. They don't have to be valuable. They don't have to have a whole lot of meaning to them either. It's the thought. And thoughts matter. So if it's a cheap old gift, as long as it's in good taste or it's with humor, it's just as good as nothing. And in many cases, take a moment. And this weighs heavily on my mind. The older I get, the worse it gets. My daughter's grown as a family and lives way down south, and we never see them. My two boys, grown. I have no idea what's going on. I can't connect with them. They don't want to talk to me. Bad history is part of the stuff that I'm paying for now for some of my indiscretions when I was younger. That said, I grew up in a family that was massive. My sister and I were, the only children my parents had. We had 6 other aunts and uncle combos, and they all had multitudes of children. And my mom had the least amount. And so all total, there was like 32 cousins that we grew up around. Now, grant you, they were in many different brackets. Some were way, in their 20s by the time I was born. So I never met them, never got to know them, very, very briefly at the various get-togethers. But in the times when I was young, we used to go Christmas Eve to my grandparents' house. And that was a major event because we drove into town for it. And because of the family being so large, and my grandparents' house was actually a little smaller than this one, square footage-wise. you couldn't get everybody there together in the winter. We do summer get-togethers, and the entire backyard would become a thing. I've got pictures of that stuff from years ago. Christmas would be kind of in shifts. So my aunt and Aunt LaDonna and her family, and my family, and sometimes the Ellis family would come together at Christmas Eve at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and then other families would come in earlier in the day or come in on Christmas Day, and it was just kind of the downside to that is that you don't develop as much of a friendship and connection with the people that you don't ever see. And that's the hard truth of the world. So as I've gotten older, the wife and I both have watched all of our aunts and uncles, majority of them anyway. There's a few survivors. The rest of them passed away. We watched a number of cousins in our age bracket pass away. So far, none of our siblings have, but that's just, it's a matter of who's first, right? It's part of life. At the end of the day, so the wife and I are going to go over to her aunt and uncle's house, and they live over on the east side of Des Moines. Nobody else goes to see them, so we'll go over Christmas Eve. We go over there for Thanksgiving, and so we'll go over Christmas Eve and spend a few hours with them, and then we'll go to my sister's house. And she recently married this past year, and her spouse Heather, and then bought a nice house that's pretty good size, much bigger than the one my sister used to live in, and far closer. They're just up about 10 minutes away from here on a different part of the city. So we'll go over there depending on their schedule. I'm hoping to go over there late Christmas Eve late tomorrow afternoon, and then tomorrow evening our friend Kevin and Sherry, my coworker from where I work at, him and I, he started a month before I did, and we're the two oldest employees that they have right now. So him and I have been through a lot and saw a lot in the working area of things, so we became friends. And so his wife and him will come over for Christmas Eve for a short while, and then Christmas Day. The last three years, when I was a kid, I had an uncle that used to take a bunch of us out on Christmas Day to go see the movie. And that's not a bad tradition. And movie houses are always open on Christmas Day. So we're going to go see a movie Christmas Day. That's the plan. So today is my day to kind of loaf around. Yesterday was, I worked well into I started around 6 o'clock at Friday evening, worked till about 2 o'clock Saturday morning. And then when I slept, I didn't get a whole lot or Friday morning, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Like 4 hours of sleep, and then I got up. Because once I start to wake up, I have horrible trouble. I don't care how tired I am, trying to go back to sleep when I got things I want to go do. It's just almost impossible. So I got up, and we ran our errands, cash check, grocery store, that kind of stuff. Got everything we need to take care of. We got one of our bills that came in that actually says they owe us $1.97 and not the $90 we usually pay them. It's my Medicaid insurance. I'm transitioning from one plan to a different plan, so I think that has got something to do with it. It's cost. I don't know what your insurance runs you, but in order for me to have what I do have, part of the reasons I have not went out and looked for another job, and I know I can get them, is I would need a job that pays significantly better than what I got, which they're there, and I have the skills to get them. They have to have a really damn good insurance program, and it has to be reasonable. So in my current situation, I'm making about $42,000 a year with overtime. I could be making $55,000, $60,000 a year with overtime, maybe more. But because we make under, the wife's disabled and I make under a certain amount of money, we qualify for a program at the local county hospital called Community Cares. The caveat with Community Cares is it's mostly for, like, if you're in the middle of you get fired or you lose your job for some reason and you have no insurance, where you go down and apply and they give you a stopgap insurance. It's supposed to be only good until you get your next insurance or the next year when the insurance stuff comes due, and then they get belligerent with you. I've learned this. They get belligerent with you, and they cut you off. But they dance around talking about it, which I found out. It took me a minute to catch on, and then once I caught on, I really understand that there's some nuances going on. So they don't want to tell everybody about it. So the money is basically charity-based. Government gives them some money, and some private organization gives them money to help poor people like me. take care of some of the medical bills. So in the case of this, as long as you have insurance and you qualify financially for community cares, they will grant you that community cares. And what it does, so my Medica, for example, my deductible for this past year is $7,500. For $89 and some change a month, plus the tax stuff that the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, established, however you want to look at it. And I'm still not sure exactly how the hell that plays out. I keep waiting to get some ugly bill in the mail from the IRS or some bullshit. So they cover the bill. The deductible, though, $7,500. I might as well not have insurance. So when I hear these ads when they talk about, well, more Americans have insurance now thanks to Obama than anybody at any other time in history, that may be true. That may be true, my friends. But I have to ask you just how much better off these people are with what we have now. And so what I'm saying is a $7,500 deductible. I have diabetes. I have to go to at least twice a year to get lab work done. And so I'm going at least twice a year to see the doctor. At that time, I try to get things like, tetanus shot or flu shots, COVID shots, whatever. I try to get them all done at that time. Unless something comes up, I'm not trying to go back any more than I have to. But that would be out of pocket. That'd be $500-$600 out of pocket, plus the lab work, plus whatever else that comes up. Well, you do that, I might as well not have insurance, because I can't pay that. My wife and I are still struggling to pay back the medical bill we got from her knee surgery back in the spring. And they're, the bill collectors are relentless. They're coming at us, and I tell her just hang up on them. And I say this, and I'll say it till the day I die. My dad told me this: never pay a bill collector, ever, never, ever, 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 ever pay a third party. If you owe something, pay them. If it's $10 a month for the rest of your damn life, pay them. That was my dad's philosophy. At the end of the day, you owe this money, pay them as best you can, but you make it, the key there is every month you make that token payment. Make that $10 payment every month, and legally speaking, they don't really have a lot of recourse. They can make all the threats in the world they want, but they're not going to do nothing. And then there was some changes too, not too many years ago, about how credit ratings, how medical bills affect credit ratings, and apparently they don't anymore. Just pointing that out. That's something they also don't like to talk about. But from what I understand, that changes stuff. So having the lesser job, go down and I get full medical care. So the Medica plan for this year will be $58 a month, and it's like almost $9,000 deductible. But this last year, I didn't pay a penny for anything. So between the Medica insurance and the community care, my health care's been provided for. And it's sad that you have to go through such a convoluted system to do this, to get that way, and you have to kind of do some nudging, some elbowing and sidestepping. You're not breaking the rules. They won't do that. But it's one of those caveats that they don't talk about either, and it's on purpose, in my opinion. Anyhow, that's not really the whole point of the video. Yeah, I wanted to wish you all a great holiday, and I really, really do. One of y'all did this the other day, left a comment on my Game Not Traveled, and it says, well, maybe you should start out with a simpler version of your game. And I thought, there is some merit to that. And so this is the very first copy, or the original Interstellar Frontiers, as I had started to play it. When you compare this core book, this is the core book, the rule book, with this core book. I mean, how did we get from this to this? Yeah, right. That's always an interesting question. So I have contemplated over the years of doing a very a basic version of the game, and then coming out with the advanced expansion expansion of the game. So, in a nutshell, what we're looking at here is the bare bones. There's a lot of stuff that's not covered in this version, obviously, than that version, and there's entire chapters that are not covered at all. So there's the combat rules are lackadaisical at best for this, because it was combat was few and far in between, and it was mostly rolling the seeing who had the better stats for rolling. But mechanically speaking, there's not a lot of rules to it. You still got mostly charts. And as you can see, some of these charts were still in the process of being filled out. So I didn't, it's hard. It's not easy. Anybody who tells you that it's easy coming up with material to create a game system has never really made a serious attempt at doing so. Especially when it's coming to, I quote, fluff and filler, but in reality, nothing in my game system is fluff. It all has some substance for a purpose based on what you, the player, want to get out of your game. So, in the process of creating these charts, for example, I didn't want to rush through and just I gave some serious thought to what I would like to see on there and what I would like to have represented, and so on and so forth. I also tried to be careful of not duplication. I've had some pretty spirited debates over the years, and there are people who convince me that this is a true thing, and there are plenty of people out there that, including mathematicians, that say it's bullshit. All right, so if you take a D100 and you roll it 100 times, and you roll down the results of that 100 rolls, what you do not see and do not get is 100 perfect rolls. 0, 1, 0, 2, 22, 23, 24. You see what I'm saying? What you get is a bell curve. So within that 100 rolls, you'll be lucky if you get a 1 and an 100. So out of that 100, they tell you that it's the chance and odds of getting any number between 1 and 100 consistently every time you roll a 100, the D100 system is always consistent. I'm sorry, friends, it's not consistent. All you got to do is the proof, and I've done it. You just roll this 10-sided, roll a pair of 10-sided die or a D100 100 times and write down the results. And you will find that probably 60% of the time your dice rolls are going to run between 30 and 70. 60% of the time. All right. So knowing that there's this saturation point for odds when it comes to rolling D100s makes it so you can mitigate certain things. So the most advantageous event rolls and the most disastrous event rolls in the game system come at the beginning or the end of the chart for the majority of the time. So you're going to roll, and the odds are really slim, that you're going to get the new colony ship, the lost colony, show up with the whole kit and caboodle minus a few minor details. And even then, out of sheer number, you roll these dice thousands and thousands of times. Suddenly, that event comes up dozens of times. Then that becomes a bit of a problem even further, because I don't want that big of a payout. I don't want that big of a Monty Hall to show up very often in your results. And so what that led to was me quantifying that maybe there needs to be some subcharts. So some of these are actually entries for I roll 56, and I look at 56, and it's a micro chart that has 10 different possible outcomes that you roll. And part of the reasons for that occurring is because certain events ought to have multiple possible outcomes or scenarios involved. I mean, they should all just be the same damn thing. So let's give it a chance of variety. So it's just hard enough to get the event, and then you roll to see which type of event that corresponds with that event is what you get. So the same thing with some of the detrimental stuff. It's the same. It's also, in a way, how I started understanding our combat system and our rolls. I understood that as a beginner at the earliest levels of the game, you have no business tangling with forces beyond your ability to even sneeze at, let alone threaten. So I had to come up with a system that put a negative modifiers for your rank. So your house lord at a squire gets this massive deduction, which means nothing above 50 in any of the result charts will occur. So that has nothing to do with events. So there's different types of chart rolls, of course, but it matters because the opposite of the kind of thing goes as well. Some of the stuff that's meant for entry level players, when you get to be you get to be a baron, for example, it's just you just blow them off because they're so tiny and they have no appreciable impact on anything, considering how much you've developed, as opposed to when you were first starting out, like in my example of a game not traveled, for as an example. So the possibility of doing that it's not that hard. And I have most of these event charts, not all by means, but most of the main ones already done. Because like I said, I've been slowly working on trying to do a digital version, an updated version with some good artwork, thanks to Steve and some of the stuff the stuff he's been donating and able to create when his health lets him operate, and the whatever other AI stuff. There's some things I personally, prefer to have, but I haven't got there yet, and I may never, because I don't have the finances to hire an artist to come up with a really good version of what I can come up with a crude version, even a fairly passable anime version, but I don't have the time these days. I really don't have the time, let alone the energy, to sit there and try to draw as well as everything else. It's a stretch sometimes. There are days. That's why when I sit down on a weekend, I didn't do videos last weekend. I should have, but I worked all night Friday night, and I was just all googy, kind of tired, beyond tired all day Saturday. Because, like I said, I came home, got about 5 or 6 hours sleep, and then got back up, and the rest of the day is pretty much shit. And then Sunday, so I was going to do some Sunday morning, but I was still feeling. We stayed up late Saturday night, and we went out and did some errands and things, and stayed out, and then stayed up late, and I just didn't have the energy and I had to work Sunday anyhow. I had to go up to B&G Foods. Some of you are familiar with Tones, right? If you go to your spice aisle at the grocery store, you will find plenty of B&G food products, Tones products, up on the shelf. Well, they got a big manufacturing facility up here in Ankeny, and we do their hoods and their grease trap, and so I had to go do their grease trap, and they only went on Sunday mornings, and then I was out all night Sunday evening doing jobs. So it was. Last weekend I just really didn't have any energy, and it put me behind because I only have so many videos, and I try to put one out every 2 days. I still have 3 or 4 for second edition D&D already done, and a couple more BattleTech stuff, and I'm fixing to do a few more because I'm trying to stay up with everything, right? But I also got my second video channel that I've been doing. It's mostly me ranting and raving about the world and politics and things like this that really frustrates me. Yeah, I got a whole whopping 22 subscribers for that channel, but I still try to put out a video every three days for that channel, every 4 days. So I'll do 6 or 7 or 8 videos today, depending on the length of them. I'm planning on doing a couple videos on battle technology I got sitting over there. This obviously, and then I want to do 2 videos for a game not traveled, since the recent one I posted is the only one I have available, so I need more. I need at least 2 to get me through till next weekend. Right? Next weekend, New Year's Eve weekend. It's a repeat of this weekend time-wise. I work my ass off Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and it gives many hours as I can. I got like a 17-hour day planned on Tuesday. Yeah, it's brutal, and my goal is to get about 45 hours in by Friday morning, and then I'll have Friday off until the following Tuesday. That's the plan. All right. But unlike this weekend, we're not going anywhere, and we'll be mostly paying bills and sitting at home. We're hoping Kevin and Sherry will come over New Year's Eve. They have for the last 4 years, so that would be nice if they come over this year too. I keep telling my wife, I said, be prepared for the day they don't want to. You know, they have lives too, and it is what it is. I mean, there's the downside of having such a tiny circle of friends and family left. You know, so I worry about that a little bit. And I think, what I started to say earlier, think about anybody in your neighborhood or associates or coworkers or friends or just that weird old man down the street. If these people live by themselves or on their own by themselves, the odds are pretty good. They're by themselves for the holidays too. And just a thought, you know, there's an old geezer that lives next door to the shop up there, and he put up with our crap the 2 years we were out there in that RV a lot. And he's real nice, and we've helped him out when we can, and we try to, and we remember him at the holiday time. We bring him up a little package of a little package of assorted snacks, you know, that we've made, and then because I've already made several batches of Rice Krispies, and I did some peanut or some walnut chocolate chip, extra chocolate chip cookies. We're going to do. I've got two batches of sugar cookie dough in the refrigerator that I made last night. So you let it set up and stuff, and we're going to make sugar cookies this afternoon. Later this afternoon, I'm going to do videos probably till noon or so, and then take a nap. And then we're going to run. We have a little extra money left over, $70. That's a lot of money for me. You know, I had $740 paycheck yesterday, and we have $70 left. And we still have some outstanding bills. I normally get a money order for the water bill that hasn't come yet. We didn't do that. I did put money on our credit card bills. I got one paid off and one nearly paid off for the month, and that leaves us the Mid-America bill, the utility, the power bill, the electric bill, that $126 that I haven't paid yet this month. And I'm holding off because we were supposed to got heating assistance for the winter. We qualified for it, we applied for it, and they granted us $600 worth of credits for it. And it hasn't kicked in, obviously, because we got a bill. So I'm going to wait to see if we get one. The next bill shows up and says we don't owe them anything, and hopefully they'll pay this one too out of that 600. And if not, then I'm going to be making a double down payment to the electric company next month. So anyway, it's possible, not improbable. The downside here, though, is this is extremely basic, without a doubt. There's so many things that you can't do with this system that I don't know, and just copying it verbatim the way it is, it reads terribly. I mean, it reads like somebody's notebook, because that's what it is. It's basically a typed up version of my handwritten version of my notes. And then as you can see, I was adding stuff. I was still in the process of trying to figure out exactly what we wanted. Most of the builds were done. The builds actually were fairly easy to come up with. I understood the concept of a builder game. I play them a lot. I like. We all have our video games. Not everybody's a video game player, but there's a lot of people who do play video games. In my case, I'm a big fan of stuff like Age of Empires. I used to play it quite a bit. Then also, because it's free, right? It's fine. It gets redundant after a while, though. That's the downside to it. Then in this case, I had SimCities for a while. My old computer system used to run those, and I used to play the crap out of that too. Then there's the current one, Dwarf Fortress. I've been playing Dwarf Fortress off and on for 7 years now. I've got their latest version, and they've changed from the old ASCII symbology to a modern version through off of Steam, and it's much better, much nicer. I played the old version, which was fine. It just was. This one's much easier to deal with, visually speaking. There's still a lot of challenges with it, but that's the whole point. The point that makes a game like Dwarf Fortress so appealing to so many people is the never-ending variety, that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get the same results twice, and every fortress you build is going to have its problems. And no matter how well you try to treat your dwarves, no matter how savvy you are running things, there's always problems. The dwarves themselves will find problems. So the game mechanics are designed to cause and affect everything you do, which is difficult as hell to do. I mean, when you think about a lot of your video games, even a lot of the most sophisticated seeming video games out there aren't that sophisticated. They actually have a very limited track that they can follow, and your decisions in this quote sandbox are heavily directed, no matter how much you think they're not, because that's just the way they work. So when I looked at how Dwarf Fortress worked, and I thought when I was doing my own game system, because I'd played Dwarf Fortress years and years before, so back when it was on a much older system. Anyway, I realized in many of these builder game systems, you have to have tiers. So your first tier and then second tier. So the goal for a lot of people is, in part, is gaining those unlocking those extra things. So to do that, we do it through research and through attrition. So there are event rolls that will give you some of these breakthroughs and or allow you to make a roll for a breakthrough for free, or buy something, so you don't have to research the blueprint. Somebody comes and sells them to you. They're just going to be hideously expensive. Do you want to pay that? Is it, in some cases you have that, if you're flush with the cash, then the credits, then burn them, because it just saves time. Or maybe something you've been trying to get for some time and now you can get it. It's a matter of taste. So, and then of course I had players that come up to me, how do I do this? How do I resolve that? Well, this event says that. Now what do I do? Well, you get those kind of questions, you kind of want to give them answers, and that leads to more notebooks full of stuff, which led to a second version of the core book rules, which were also a little smoother, a little more user friendly. There were still problems with it. Same problems that's in this system here. Part of the rules to how to resolve things, how things are supposed to operate, I hadn't written down. They were in my brain based on assumptions and knowledge of other stuff of how I think it ought to work. The downside with doing that is you can't remember everything verbatim the way it ought to be remembered, hence the need to write it down. So somebody come up and say, well, I have a freighter captain that came in, it says it belongs to blah. How do I find out? How do I find out what guild it belongs to, or how do I find out what NPC house it belongs to? Well, here's what I would do, blah, blah, blah. And then the next time, blah, blah, blah. And then I write a note down. And next thing I know, I'm looking at it, well, this doesn't read right. This doesn't make sense. No wonder they keep asking me damn questions about it, so I rewrite it. And eventually it leads to things like, this behemoth here that's got almost 350 pages in it. All right, plus the two accessory books that go with it. So, the possibilities there. I might have to revisit, because I got about 70 pages of the latest version of this game system created, and once again, part of my problem is lethargy. I tell you, I ain't kidding you when I tell you I'm tired all the damn time. The job and the hours and my age, it's just taking its toll. And then there's the never-ending worry and fret. Even when I got free time, I fret. And I also have to be mindful of my situation. My wife here, I can't just come home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and disappear into the room for 3 hours to dick with shit. She wouldn't be fair to her. All right, wouldn't be fair to her, and she'd be upset, and rightly so. I can't do that. I'm not a bachelor. I'm not a young man, and I'm not the arrogant prick I was when I was younger. Because there was a time in my life when I had to do just that. This is what I want to do, and tough for you. The other, it just is what it is. So time-wise, it's hard. And the other side, though, I suppose, from a simplistic view, putting out the game system can be dealt with on the core principles, but you wouldn't have things like negotiations, interrogations. You're not going to have the substantial chapter for your opposing forces. You're going to have some very brief entries in here, like there are in here, that mentions that they do exist. And you get in a pirate role. How do you figure out how to create the pirates? It's because I never came up with it at that point. It wasn't until, 5, 6 years later, and a lot of people badgering me about how the hell do we deal with this. This is I don't know what to do. I don't have that creative window that you do, etc., etc. So I sat there and going, right. So if you look, so in this book, all right, the first part you've got ship components, and then we've got weapon systems, and then we got unit designation. So in this one, I was creating things like here's the entry for a scout or reconnaissance unit. It would be, its acronym would be RI, or scout. Platoon scale 25 people or 5 squads. Mass would be half a ton per plus vehicle per trooper. Fuel needs varies based off of vehicles. Armor, personnel or light class, usually LBA or PBA. Cannot wear combat or assault armor. Maneuvers varies, whether they're on foot or they got vehicles. A description: lightly armored and armed, lightly equipped. Gear suitable for extended unsupported operations. Cost: see military unit formations. Tech varies. Equipment: usually light and durable for extended operations from resupply. May include living or light transports, high-end military-grade electronics, survival systems, and supply pods, etc. So it's a matter of a scout platoon we would outfit. Ideally on Fairwind, I would have one of my early militia platoons should be a reconnaissance platoon, and I would assign it motorbike. In this case, ATVs, because I've already established that that Fairwind now produces them in small quantities, and then I assigned 25 ATVs. Or I could sign 12 based on 2 people riding one kind of scenario, however you want to look at it. And then I'm going to equip them with the light body armor and whatever firearms that I manufacture at the time. In this case, ballistic rifles and AR rifles, assault rifles. So I would give each one of them those. Then I would give them basic, wilderness survival gear, which we would need to, potentially manufacture if we have a seriously severe enough environment to contend with. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a fairly cheap unit. The mobility is going to be enhanced because of the vehicles. Normally, you wouldn't give ATVs to an infantry platoon, because that's not how they work. So an infantry platoon is either going to be provided with like an armored personnel carrier or a soft skin vehicle that transport them. Traditionally, an armored vehicle is troops are assigned to an armored vehicle unit and not the other way around. Whereas opposed to soft skin vehicles like trucks, for example, the trucks will be part of a transportation unit that'll be assigned to temporarily deliver the troops to wherever they need to go. The foot soldiers to wherever they go. So the reconnaissance unit, and there's numerous roles for this, as you well know, not just patrolling and looking for the bad guy and scouting ahead, and so your forces don't get ambushed, but there's a lot of I use this term loosely, special forces work that these guys can be assigned and do, and having set up from the get-go to operate as squads, as a platoon as an organization, but 5 individual squads means that you can disperse 2nd squad or 5th squad to different places. So I can send 5th squad of my reconnaissance platoon, the 1st Fairwind Militia, and pack them up and send them off to Kepis Folly for some damn reason, if need be. So the possibilities are there, and we go with mechanic wise and stuff. I don't know. I keep pokering in my mind. Would it be possible, to like here, for example? Here's my initial list of ranking for the nobility, and you obviously see it wasn't finished at this point by any means. So you start out with a squire. Your house lord or lady leading this colonial effort is a squire the minute they set down on the planet and establish their colony. To become a thane, you have to have 4 settled systems on at least and then you raise it raises. But once you do that, you raise the tax. Your tax on your primary colonies rate goes up, but there's a lot of other perks and benefits and disadvantages based goes with those ranks. But I filled them in later, right? So, and then it goes here barren, as above, plus regional population exceeding 100,000. So what it means by this is we're in regional population exceeding 500,000, you may build a second exchange. So in this case, if you reach barren, you have to have 4 settled systems. So I would need to go, I have Fairwind, I would need to go to 3 other star systems and establish a colony. Those colonies only need to be 50 people. There's no hard rule that says there needs to be 10,000 people to be qualify as a colony. You can have 50 people there. And dirt farmers, they wouldn't then in a field for a landing pad, and that'd be whatever the hell you want to call it. But you run up the flag, say it's now my second colony. This opens up the window because now you're going to treat this colony like you do your meat. So I would open up. Let's say somehow I managed to open up the Distant Dream. All right, so Distant Dream is going to be an agricultural world, and I start out by sending 50 colonists over there. So one of these are going to be administrative. Probably 9 of them are going to be basically Tech 1 technicians who are going to help run and set up the colony itself, and the other 40 are going to be dirt farmers. So if we figure the average dirt farm family of 4 people, that would be 10 farms. And the 10 farm rule then is we would look at Tech 0 builds that we could build on this planet with as very minimal material as possible. The other possibility is having prefabs. We just drop prefab buildings in and put people on them. Now we have a ready-made colony. But that's how you do it. So you establish 4 of these things on 4 separate light years, so 4 separate solar systems. At that point, you are officially considered a thing. Now, to reach barren status, you don't need to add any more colonies. You have to add population. So you need a minimum of 100,000 population on all 4 of those colonies. Keeping in mind that's just the 4 ones that you settled in individual systems. So in one case, I had a player who had his home solar system. His home system had 4 breathable worlds and about a dozen breathable moons because he had 2 gas giants between them had like 60 moons. So he had a very, very rich home system, and he didn't expand outside of it for a long time. He remained a Thane for a long damn time, a Squire for a long time, because he was focused on exploiting what he had right there at home, and there was a lot of advantages to that kind of a layout. There's a lot of disadvantages too, but it is what it is. So, and then we go from there, Count, Earl, Duke, and Grand Duke. And I always told people, if you get to the point, you make to the point of a Count, you're going to have so much paperwork to try to keep track of that there's a possibility that the game flatlines at some point because it just becomes unwieldy. You'll get so much crap, so many things to try to keep track of, so many different units to move around, so many starships, and all this other stuff to maintain. It can become a full-time thing. You could find yourself spending 3-4 hours a day, every day, managing this stuff, and it could take months to do a cycle. Because if you do like I do, one thing at a time, I don't know any other way to do it. This is not a video game. That's the downside. You don't have a computer to do all the grunt work for you. So, anyway, it's a possibility. It's one of those things where I have thought about it. And, I don't know. I just don't know. I have to keep thinking about it and go from there. Anyway, hope you guys have a great holiday weekend. And little Missy, she's actually looks like she's half asleep over there in the box. She's getting to where we can let her out. We've let her out in the living room. She's out in the main house a couple times already today. We brought her back in for breakfast, so she's not. The other cats don't interfere with her. Right now, though, my wife would be out there tearing her hair out because she's worried. She don't want none of the cats fighting. And some of these cats don't get along with each other. And for the love of God, I don't know why, other than it's a lot of cats in a small space. Sissy went after Mama the other day and gave her a nasty little cut on her nose. Mama's so terrified to come out of her hole at nighttime that she's gone bathroom several times just trying to get to the bathroom because she waits too long. Uh, you know, and there ain't much we can do about that. As long as Missy's in here, we can't put Mama in here at night, which what I'd like to do. Uh, Sissy had, I don't know what Sissy's problem is with Mama. Sissy is just does not like her. Sissy don't like any of the other cats. She plays with Cece every now and then. Once the Blue Mood plays with Frankie, but for the most part, her and Doofus don't. She tolerates Doofus, but she reminds him all the time she's top. She's top tier here, and I think that's the issue with her and Mama. I don't know what's going on there. Mama's special needs too. That makes it worse. We don't want to see anybody picking on her and vice versa. So you kind of babysit them the way you can. And little Missy here, she's been in the house too long right now. I can't put her outside because her coat's not thick enough. She wouldn't live. Not to mention, as young as she is, she's stupid. Within a month or two, I'd find her out on the side of the road up here and be burying her ass. I mean, it is what it is. We had another black and white cat showing up down the road here the other day, and I says, for love, I said, he shows up here, put dry food out, but we ain't taking care of no more cats. We can't take on. We're struggling with what we got, and we can do what we got, and I'm not going to stress out anything else. This poor bastard shows up out front. We'll put water. We'll put a heated bowl out for their water, and put put food out every day, and that's more than most people would do. More than most. Just saying. Anyway, hope y'all have a great holiday weekend. I really appreciate everybody, and the growth of the channel has been phenomenal and awesome. And the commentary, a couple of you guys are getting to be pretty regular, and I appreciate that stuff. I do. I look forward to those things. And like I said, with my job being weird hours, I'm out there with my phone sometimes at all hours of the day and night. And I see these things pop up, and I'll respond to them as fast, usually pretty much as soon as I notice them, right? As long as I'm in a position to do that. Obviously, I'm not going to text and drive, so that's not going to happen. Anyway, you guys have a great weekend, and New Year's coming up, and probably we'll do another video next weekend for the New Year as well. Mostly me babbering and bitching. Till next time, I'm Rick, and you're not. It just irritates me to no end.